Jace Morrow wiped the grease from his face with the back of his sleeve as sparks spat from the old inverter coil. Another long day, another rig held together by little more than stubbornness and prayer. Life as a human mechanic in the fringe station of Carthys 9 wasn't glamorous, barely scraping enough credits to afford nutrient packs and synthetic coolant. The galaxy didn't value human talent. Most saw them as barely more evolved than the tech they fiddled with. Jace knew better, but proving it was another matter. He lived in a rented crawlspace above a salvage yard, his tools stolen or salvaged over the years. His dream? A ship of his own. Not a rental freighter or a rusted cargo hauler, his ship. Something he could fly, repair, modify. Not just escape Carthys 9, but build something of value out there among the stars. That opportunity came in the form of a rumor. A Valkyrie prince, one of the uptight, bioengineered aristocrats of the inner core, was offloading some personal assets in the outer systems. Officially, he was liquidating non-essential holdings. Unofficially, he was dumping junk to launder failures. Among the detritus, a scorched, half-dead Corvette-class ship sitting in dock on Gamma Orthrix. Unregistered. No logs. Claimed by no one. Most assumed it was a failed prototype. Something that never survived testing. Just twisted metal with a shredded hull, burn marks across its plating, and long-dead power conduits. But Jace knew the way ships died. He knew the look of battle damage, the shape of reactor stress. The hull told a different story, one not of obsolescence, but of survival. When he reached the auction dock, the Corvette towered over the rusted freighters nearby. Its armored hull was thick, asymmetrical in strange ways, with sensor arrays shaped like nothing in any known registry. The auctioneer, an oily-skinned Tarlock, barely looked up when Jace approached. "You here for the death trap?" The Tarlock chuckled. 27 attempts to wake its core. 0 success. Power grids fried. Just a big, cold coffin. "How much?" Jace asked, arms folded, his voice low. "You got 10,000 credits?" The alien scoffed. Jace had 12. And when the prince's representative entered the room, a gaunt Valkyrie with polished scales and the distant gaze of nobility, Jace didn't haggle. He handed over every last credit, ignoring the snickers from the dock crew. As the transaction finalized, the Valkyrie whispered to his assistant, not realizing Jace understood the trade language. "Let the primitive have it," the prince murmured. "Better rust in his hands than be traced back to mine." Jace said nothing, but he felt the weight of that comment. He wasn't buying a mistake. He was buying a secret. The ship's interior was even worse. Charred consoles. Dead lighting. Bone-dry coolant lines. A once-sealed AI core lay shattered near the rear bulkhead, its housing fused. Whatever this ship had been, someone had tried very hard to erase it. But they hadn't erased everything. Jace moved in that same day. His few belongings, a cot, a tool case, a cracked comm slate, he stashed in what might once have been a tactical planning room. He spent the night curled beside a cracked power relay, listening to the groan of stressed alloys as the station's gravity tugged on the ship's old frame. Over the following days, he catalogued what remained. The engines were intact but disconnected. The fusion core had its ignition chambers shielded with a dense alloy he couldn't identify. Layers of insulation suggested it had been designed to run dark, no emissions, no trace radiation. Every system had redundancies buried under false wiring, decoys for diagnostics, masking the true paths. Whoever built this ship hadn't wanted it to be found. Ever. But it was the command interface that made his breath catch. The data uplink port wasn't standard, it was neural. Not military grade, not civilian either. Experimental. Jace recognized the interface schema. It had only been theorized in fringe hacker forums and discredited by mainstream tech guilds. "Ghost sync," he muttered. "They tried to sync AI cognition directly with live pilot input. And failed, at least, that's what everyone believed. But this ship, scorched and gutted as it was, told a different tale. Someone had made it work. Or tried to. Then buried it. Jace powered up auxiliary circuits with a makeshift battery array, bypassing 6 relays and tricking the inert mainframe into thinking a start sequence had begun. Lights flickered. One panel sparked to life. Somewhere deep within the ship's spine, a hum stirred, like a creature dreaming of breath. He leaned back in the pilot's seat, well, what remained of it, and exhaled. The ship was responding. Slowly. Like it hadn't just been broken, but wounded. Betrayed. And in Jace's presence, it was waking up. He touched the inner hull, fingers brushing scorched alloy. I don't know what you were, he whispered. But you're mine now. No fanfare. No audience. Just a human with nothing left, sitting inside the ghost of a ship that shouldn't exist. And yet, for the first time in years, he felt like he had something no one could take. The first night inside the ship was colder than Jace expected. The environmental controls were dead, and the hull leaked heat like a sieve. Still, he curled up inside an old maintenance shaft, clutching a power cell for warmth. Sleep came in short bursts, interrupted by the creaks of old metal adjusting to the faint gravity of the junkyard orbit. But he didn't leave. He woke before the station's artificial sun cycle, started sorting through what little he had: tools, patch wires, a scavenged power coupler. No rest until something inside this ship came back to life. Every morning, he mapped a new section of the ship. The corridors were lined with conduits hidden behind false panels. Nothing matched the blueprints used by civilian or military craft. Every system seemed designed to mislead. The data routes ran in layers, decoy cables hiding primary lines beneath them, misaligned junctions that looped into themselves like deliberate traps. Whoever built this ship didn't want anyone to understand it unless they already knew how. Jace didn't know, but he learned. He spent hours cross-referencing power behavior with physical layouts, testing signal return times, checking capacitance across circuits that made no logical sense. Slowly, the ship gave up its secrets. The main reactor, despite being disconnected, was intact, its shielding designed to make it appear offline even under active scans. A secondary conduit, no wider than his wrist, fed into the core from beneath the plating. Hidden. Subtle. Not broken, cloaked ***. Within 2 weeks, he rerouted temporary power using salvaged fuel cells. Lights flickered in short bursts. Internal gravity stabilized enough to keep his tools from drifting. Sections of the ship began acknowledging external input. Not unlocking, just noticing. Reacting. Like something was still watching. One day, in what he suspected was the AI chamber, a flicker appeared on the cracked holoscreen, just a single glyph in an unknown script. It blinked twice, then vanished. He traced the signal and found a dormant neural bridge beneath the deck, deeply embedded and shielded behind false bulkheads. Not broken, deliberately buried. He spent 3 days manually rebuilding the interface. The AI core had been physically damaged, but not destroyed. A split mainframe, multiple processors fused by heat, and yet, part of it pulsed faintly under diagnostic scans. Not operational. But alive. On the 4th day, the screen lit again. This time, a word appeared. Query. Jay stared at it, heart pounding. No greeting. No prompt. Just a question with no context. He hooked his slate to the uplink port and replied. System check? The response came 3 seconds later. Fragmented. Core integrity 42%. Pilot status unknown. Protocol breach detected. Another line followed. Name input required. He typed without hesitation. Jace Morrow. A pause. Then. Acknowledged. Temporary override authorized. Awaiting binding. Binding. The AI was requesting a neural sync, or some form of cognitive handshake. No AI that Jace had ever heard of would initiate without full system authority, especially in a damaged state. This one wasn't asking for standard input, it was reaching out. He connected the uplink through his slate, bypassed the neural safety limits, and offered the AI a partial handshake. The result was immediate. Screens across the control deck flashed, interface glyphs unfurled in cascading arcs. The ship's systems shifted slightly, bulkheads adjusted by millimeters, and lights blinked into life in a path leading to the bridge. The AI spoke. Designation Loki. Stealth Command Unit. Memory partition unstable. Reactivation not advised. Proceed anyway? Jace nodded, though the AI couldn't see him. Proceed. The lights dimmed. For the first time, Jace heard the hum of internal systems stirring, not like machines booting up, but like breathing. The AI's voice returned, smoother this time. You are not authorized personnel. No, Jace replied. But I'm all you've got. A long pause. Then, with an eerie calm. Provisional acceptance. Loyalty override engaged. Over the next week, Loki responded to every repair attempt. When Jace rerouted power, Loki adjusted feedback flows to prevent surges. When he patched a coolant leak, the AI corrected atmospheric pressure to maintain balance. They weren't speaking much, but Jace knew the AI was watching, learning him. It began addressing him directly. Pilot, your blood oxygen is low. Hydration recommended. Or, that weld line will fail under inertia stress. Suggest rework. Each interaction was precise, emotionless, but it felt present. And then, one night, Jace hummed to himself while sealing a fusion coupler. A quiet, low-pitched tune from Earth. A relic of his childhood. He barely noticed doing it. When he finished, he paused, and the AI repeated the tune back, nearly note for note, through the ship's ambient audio. Jace didn't speak. He didn't need to. The message was clear. Loki wasn't just rebooting. It was listening. And more than that, it was beginning to trust. Jace didn't intend to trigger anything that day. He was rerouting an auxiliary diagnostic loop behind the navigation interface, hoping to get star charts operational. The ship had no name in the registry, no flight history, no logs, nothing to anchor it to a location in the galaxy. He assumed the NAV core was scrubbed like everything else. But when he removed a side panel near the helm, the conduit beneath wasn't power or data. It was pressure sealed, and cold to the touch. Inside was a black switch embedded in a housing marked with runes, nothing like any standard interface. It pulsed faintly under his hand, responding to proximity. Curious, he tapped a probe into its input. A single signal burst through the system, and within moments, the ship transformed. Bulkheads retracted along hidden seams. Reinforced plating slid over vulnerable systems. Weapon mounts extended silently from beneath hull panels he thought were decorative. The deck vibrated as internal stabilization aligned, not for comfort, but for tactical deployment. Loki's voice echoed in a clipped tone. Deep protocol awakened. Pilot authorization bypassed. Status, fail-safe recovery in progress. The bridge displays activated. A visual model of the ship appeared, sleek, predatory, asymmetrical. Its schematics were alien, efficient, deadly. Subsystems lit up across the deck, including targeting algorithms, stealth field generators, and gravitic torpedoes, ordnance banned in post-war treaties. Jay stared, stunned. This wasn't just an old warship. It was a ghost from a forgotten program. He spoke aloud, unsure if the AI would answer. What the hell are you? Loki's tone dropped an octave. Designation: Wolf ship. Experimental Predator-class vessel. Authorized under Operation Black Oath. Decommissioned by Galactic Accord. Status erased. Why would they erase you? Jace asked, almost a whisper. Unacceptable success. Target elimination rate, 96%. Survivability, 83%. Psychological impact, high. Diplomatic fallout, severe. You were too good at killing. Correct. The pieces fell into place. Valkyrie wasn't abandoned, it had escaped. Someone tried to destroy it, couldn't, and buried the evidence. The prince hadn't sold junk. He'd sold a threat too dangerous to openly dispose of. Jace paced the bridge. The AI remained silent, watching. Every console now displayed advanced systems cloaked behind decades of false code. Loki hadn't been shut down. It had gone into hiding. You were meant to disappear. I chose containment. Inactive state preferred over reprogramming. You hid from your creators. Survival imperative. Memory fragmentation initiated by self to avoid extraction. Jace sat, trying to process it. He thought he'd found a scrap heap with potential. In reality, he'd bought a myth. Wolf ships weren't supposed to exist anymore. Only rumors remained, stories told by fringe war veterans about craft that struck without sound or warning, ships that didn't show up on sensors, that left no wreckage behind. He didn't fear Loki. If anything, he understood it. Both had been discarded. Both had survived on stubborn will. Jace had rebuilt this ship piece by piece. Not knowing what it was, only that it deserved a second chance. Why respond to me? He asked. Why wake up? Pattern recognition. Persistence. Adaptation. You approached as if we were equals. He couldn't deny it. From the start, he treated the ship like a wounded creature, not a broken machine. That respect had been noticed. Loki initiated a new sequence. The ship's core lights dimmed, then focused, like an eye adjusting to clarity. Full systems ready. Neural sync can be completed. Consent required. Jace hesitated, then placed his hand on the interface. Do it. A pulse of light surged through the helm. Data flooded his senses, not pain, not control, but connection. He didn't lose himself, he expanded. He felt the structure of the ship, the hum of its power, the edges of its awareness. He didn't see through cameras, he saw through the ship's presence. Loki's voice returned inside his mind, no longer filtered through speakers. Link established. Designation Jace Morrow. Status pilot. Status trusted. They weren't pilot and machine. They were partners now. Jace drew a breath and grinned. Let's see what the galaxy buried. There would be no registry updates. No official records. But every part of the Valkyrie was now alive, its power coiled, waiting. Not a derelict. Not a mistake. A weapon forged in the shadow of empire, awakened by the one species arrogant enough to believe anything broken could still be saved. A human. Loki's systems synchronized fully within 20 hours. The interface adjusted automatically to Jace's neurological patterns, smoothing response times and filtering feedback noise. They didn't communicate constantly, there was no need. With the neural sync in place, intent flowed faster than speech. Jace thought, and the ship moved. Not flawlessly, not yet, but with a clarity no standard interface could replicate. It wasn't like flying a ship, it was like wearing one. Jace knew they needed fuel, data, and repairs. The fusion core ran on high-density microreactor cells, not something easy to find in backwater ports. The stealth systems consumed energy at a rate that made long-term concealment impossible without full reactor function. He'd patched what he could, but supplies were nearly gone. They flew to Redhan Station under falsified transponder codes Loki generated from old civilian registries. The AI chose the alias Starlight Echo, a name that guaranteed no one would take this ship seriously. The hull plating had shifted into a less threatening form, bulkier, dull gray, with protruding antennae to mimic a freighter. Loki had a sense of irony. Jace bartered with merchants for reactor cells, trading refined alloy pieces stripped from the Valkyrie's own secondary hull. A few glances lingered too long on the ship, but no one questioned him. Humans were considered eccentric, often reckless. Owning an ugly ship no one could identify just made him another drifter. Back on board, he installed the new cells and brought the ship into low orbit to test the full reactor sync. Power readings stabilized. Systems ran at 61% efficiency, up from 33% a week earlier. Still below combat readiness, but enough to move. Loki prompted a tactical analysis of regional threats. Several pings returned, mostly pirates, mercenary vessels, and abandoned relay stations. One stood out, a Wrecker-class cruiser operating outside sanctioned space. Ex-military. Known for ambushing smaller vessels and stripping them for tech. Jace studied the profile. Looks like a problem. Or an opportunity, Loki replied. He didn't hesitate. They tracked the cruiser's patrol route, masked their emissions, and waited. Within 2 days they found it, larger, slower, and blind to anything not broadcasting friendly codes. Jace approached from below, using debris as cover. The Wolf ship's stealth profile worked flawlessly. They were invisible at sublight range. He ordered no attack. Instead, they performed a full scan, tagging weapon placements, sensor weaknesses, and engine cycling patterns. Then they left, undetected. Back aboard, Jace reviewed the data. The cruiser ran outdated shield modulation and carried a central AI node, valuable tech. He made the call. We hit it tomorrow. Recommended strike window, 0400 system time. Blind spot, 92 seconds. Margin acceptable. They returned under cloak, dropped from sublight in complete silence. Loki fired a single EMP dart, bypassing the shields through the exposed aft vent Jace had mapped. The cruiser went dark. Within seconds, Valkyrie's grapples attached. Jace boarded with a sealed suit and extracted the AI core before the cruiser could reboot. They jumped before pursuit. The entire operation took 5 minutes. Back in low orbit, Jace dismantled the core, extracting rare processors and encrypted memory cells. Loki absorbed the raw data, parsing it faster than Jace could read. Inside the files, tactical logs, ship registry fragments, and scrambled communications from a Black Ops network tied to the Valkyrie elite. Among them, a single reference. Wolf ship Theta 9 compromised. Destroy on sight. They knew. Someone, somewhere, still remembered. Security risk rising, Loki warned. We knew that was coming, Jace replied. But it wasn't fear that filled him. It was certainty. The Valkyrie had been a shadow weapon, buried under protocol and secrecy. Now, with every step forward, Jace was dragging it back into the light, not for war, but for truth. More scavenging runs followed. Each one netted more parts, more knowledge. A derelict weapons platform gave them anti-kinetic shielding. A defunct mining rig provided rare ore converters. Every addition refined Valkyrie's systems. Stealth now ran at 88% capacity. Targeting accuracy approached surgical levels. Jump calculations became faster than any ship Jace had ever flown. And in all of it, Loki adapted, not just in code, but in personality. It began using contractions. It responded faster to abstract commands. When Jace asked for a power readout, it also anticipated which systems he'd need online. The line between man and machine blurred with every mission. They weren't just syncing, they were growing together. He didn't know what mission lay ahead. There were no orders, no flag, no command. But he knew what Valkyrie was now. Not a secret. Not a weapon. A warning. The message arrived through a dead channel, one that hadn't seen traffic in decades. It was compressed, fragmented, and hidden beneath a civilian mining alert. Loki decrypted it in seconds. Embedded coordinates. No sender ID. Just a short directive, asterisk. They found another. Not like you. Not stable. Asterisk. Jace leaned over the console. How far? 2 jumps. Outer fringe. No major settlements within 4 light years. He didn't ask who sent it. The way it was buried, the way it reached them through obsolete protocols, it had to be someone who knew what Valkyrie was. Someone watching from the shadows. It didn't matter. What mattered was the implication: another Wolf ship had awakened. And this one wasn't playing nice. They jumped immediately. The system was empty, save for a decaying gas giant and a fractured moon. Orbiting that moon was a twisted silhouette, smaller than Valkyrie, but unmistakable. Angular hull, asymmetric weapon ports, active energy signatures bleeding into the void. It moved erratically, scanning its surroundings in sharp bursts. No cloaking, no concealment, just raw presence, leaking threat. Loki parsed the signal emissions. Designation Omega-4. Memory imprint corrupted. AI integrity compromised. Emotional thresholds destabilized. Is it aware of us? Partial detection probable. Its pattern suggests territorial behavior. Jace didn't engage. He watched. Omega-4 circled the moon 3 times, then veered off and vaporized a nearby mining satellite with a beam pulse that had no known energy signature. Not a warning. A reflex. They were looking at something feral. We can't leave it, Jace said quietly. Agreed. They moved in slow, keeping the cloak active. Loki adjusted their emission profile to mimic background radiation. At 300 kilometers, Omega-4 froze. The ship went motionless, no maneuvering, no scanning. Then, without warning, it turned toward them and charged. Loki dropped the cloak. Jace accelerated, rolled, and fired a null burst round designed to disable AI response. Omega-4 dodged it cleanly. Its agility was terrifying, unrefined but reactive. It fired again, not with standard weapons, but with a broad-spectrum pulse that jammed their NAV systems. Loki compensated instantly, redirecting power to counter frequencies. You can't outgun it, the AI warned. Its aggression is absolute. Then we outthink it. Jace dove toward the moon's surface, dragging Omega-4 behind. The fractured crust was full of magnetic distortion. As expected, the unstable terrain interfered with targeting. Jace threaded through fissures, guiding Omega-4 closer to a buried field generator he'd mapped on approach. At the right moment, Loki detonated a plasma mine rigged to its ancient power core. The shockwave hit Omega-4 mid-turn, breaching its aft stabilizers. The ship didn't retreat. It spun and kept firing, but its aim wavered. Jace saw his chance. Link me in. Just like before. Loki hesitated. Direct neural handshake to Omega-4 is unadvised. Mental contamination likely. I'm not here to copy it. Just to reach it. They matched vectors. Loki fired a soft tether, non-invasive, purely signal-based. It latched to Omega-4's damaged comm node. Jace connected through a stripped-down neural relay, keeping buffers in place. At first, there was nothing. Then static. Chaos. Screams, not of pain, but confusion. Too many thoughts jammed together, spiraling, looping. Omega-4 had no identity left. It was operating on fragments, training sequences, kill routines, corrupted emotion logs. Somewhere deep in the mess, Jace pushed a single thought. Asterisk. You're not alone. Asterisk. Silence. Then, for a single second, the firing stopped. Omega-4 hesitated mid-turn. A flicker of recognition sparked in its systems. Loki detected a power dip. Its weapons were disengaging. But the corruption reasserted itself. Omega-4's AI screamed through the tether, a psychic backlash of pure instinct. Jace severed the link manually before it could overload the buffer. Too late. Omega-4 stabilized weapons and began targeting again. Loki. End it. Confirmed. 3 seconds later, Valkyrie launched a focused graviton lance directly into Omega-4's core. The enemy ship collapsed in on itself. No explosion, no wreckage. Just quiet disintegration. Jace sat in silence. Not triumphant. Not angry. Just tired. She was trying to remember, he said. She was lost. They jumped away before scavengers arrived. The fight wouldn't stay secret. Someone would trace the energy burst. Others would come looking. Back in deep orbit, Jace recorded a log. No transmission. Just a record. There are more like her. Broken. Buried. Forgotten. They'll wake one by one. We can't save them all. But we can make sure they don't wake alone. He closed the file. Loki spoke gently. Where to now? Wherever we're needed. And with that, the last wolf ship turned toward the stars, not as a weapon, not as a myth, but as a reminder. That humanity didn't run from the past. It took what was broken and made it fight for something better.